What's up guys? I've been using the iPhone 14 Pro for 6 months now, and in this video I want to tell you about my experience and everything you need to know. I use the 14 Pro and not the 14 Pro Max, but apart from the size, weight and battery life, my experience applies to the 14 Pro Max as well. The design that we have had in this form since the iPhone 12 is a matter of taste. Anyway, I personally like it a lot. The shiny stainless steel frame looks super nice, but unfortunately attracts fingerprints. After 6 months I still like this dark purple very much. It is definitely a color that I could see more often and I do not regret my decision to choose this color to this day. What is also so nice about it is that the color changes depending on the incidence of light. Sometimes the color is saturated and sometimes less saturated, and from certain angles it looks almost like a gray. Personally, I use my iPhone with a case most of the time, although I don't really like cases on my phone because the beautiful look of the iPhone is covered. But that's exactly why there are absolutely no signs of wear and tear on my iPhone 14 Pro. Not even any fine scratches can be seen. Neither on the matte glass on the back nor on the display in front, and not on the shiny stainless steel frame. The 14 Pro cameras have become even bigger and thicker and are therefore even more prominent than on the previous model. The ceramic shield, as Apple calls it, has proven to be very scratch resistant. And here too, as you can see, I don't have a single scratch on the screen. Also probably because there was often a case around it, and this case has a raised edge that protects the display even more. I've used it without the case from time to time. We have an excellent OLED display here, which I have always been very satisfied with. Especially the 120Hz refresh rate, which we have only had since the iPhone 13 Pro. What I also noticed positively is the significantly higher screen brightness, which is achieved in everyday life, especially outdoors. According to Apple, up to 2000 nits are achieved here. I was never able to test this exactly, but compared to my previous iPhones, for example the 12 Pro, it is significantly brighter. This is definitely much more pleasant, especially in direct sunlight. When Always On for the 14 Pro was introduced, I wasn't impressed, to be honest. Because I thought it was just a little gimmick. Anyway, I find it extremely handy now that you don't have to tap the iPhone every time just to see if you missed a message or call. It's pretty much easy to look at it when you're passing by, and you don't have to go over to your iPhone if it's lying around somewhere on the dining table, for example. I was also able to get used to the new dynamic island quickly. To be honest, it doesn't make a big difference if there is a notch or a pill-shaped recess that displays information. But this recess has not only become smaller, it can also be adapted individually to the use of the iPhone and apps, for example by displaying information and notifications and also expanding them depending on the content displayed. The dynamic island is a nice thing and I've used it from time to time, but if I didn't have it, I honestly wouldn't miss it. There is not much needs to be said about the performance. It's very good as you'd expect from an iPhone, especially the Pro model. The built-in A16 chip offers more performance than the A15, but you don't notice it in everyday life anyway. You are simply better prepared for the future because you have more power reserves available. I have always been very satisfied with the battery life of the iPhone 14 Pro. And above all, the Pro model offers even more battery life. I started the day with 100% battery in the morning, and at the end of the day I still have around 60%. And Always On was also activated. Anyway, I just wanted to know how Always On affects the battery life, and I can say that without Always On I had about 15% more battery left. How much Always On affects the battery also depends on how often the iPhone automatically disables Always On. This is the case, for example, when the iPhone is in a pocket, in a backpack, or in general in a dark room. And if you have an Apple Watch and you go to another room, the iPhone also deactivates the Always On function because there is no point in displaying information if the owner is not nearby. You can also make Always On a bit more energy efficient by going to the settings and under Display and Brightness, tapping on Always On and deactivating the background image display. So the background image is no longer darkened, but the screen is set to black and only shows the time and widgets. Alternatively, Always On can also be deactivated completely. But it also has to be said that the battery life can vary greatly depending on use. Especially which apps you use and how often you use them. So it always depends on how much performance you demand from the iPhone. After 6 months of use, my battery life is still at 100%. I usually charge the iPhone via MagSafe. As far as the camera is concerned, I don't want to go into too much detail about what's new, I just want to refer to my experience. The cameras on the iPhone 14 Pro are even larger than on its predecessors. I think it's just about acceptable, but if the cameras get any bigger on the next iPhone, it's going to shake even more when it's on the table, and that could be a gripe for a lot of people. On the other hand, pictures and videos that are made with the newer cameras are getting better and better, and I definitely enjoy them. Above all, I like the cinema mode, which I have often used and also really enjoy. They can now be recorded with 4K, whereas with the 13 Pro this was possible up to a maximum of Full HD. The iPhone now also has crash detection, so it can automatically call the emergency services in case of an accident after a countdown has been performed. If it is not an accident, you can confirm to the iPhone that you are not seriously injured and no emergency services will be called. Emergency call via satellite is also available, so I can say that I'm very satisfied with the iPhone 14 Pro in almost all aspects. It works very reliably and flawlessly. Only the weight of 206 grams I sometimes find a bit disturbing. And the 14 Pro Max weighs a whole 240 grams, and I find that a certain limit has already been reached as far as weight is concerned. But as I said, I'm very satisfied with the iPhone 14 Pro. Whether it's taking pictures in the dark, recording videos, or also the general performance is more than sufficient. Besides, with this iPhone you're also really very well prepared for the future. But I would also like to know your experience and how satisfied you are with your iPhone 14 and 14 Pro. Feel free to post it in the comments. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, then give it a like to let me know. And if you want to stay tuned for more videos like this, then consider to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And I'll see you in my next video.